I'm getting a little frazzled, a little heated. Usurping, knowing the story of culture. Culture is readily stolen, right? If you watch my red flags video, it's like whenever I tell people no, like, it's my culture, you can't have it, they're mad at me. They're mad at me that I want to keep what's mine to myself. There's something, and it's frustrating. I'm like, I have agency. This is mine, and you can't have it. And you can get violent about it. You can have a tantrum. You can cause me harm now. You know, you have agency. I'm not saying please. I'm just saying, I know you do you. I also, am witnessing and tracking the pattern of you doing you, especially when I have agency, when I put up boundaries. I'm like, what would it really be to respect cultures, to know about a culture but refrain from it? It's like, oh, that's theirs. That's how you appreciate it. It's just let us keep it. Everyone's like, it's appreciation. I'm like, no, if you're in the streets with my culture draped on you, it's like what I was saying in my red flag video. I've been socialized to think red flags are positive. And I feel like that's where we're at with like culture sharing. It's just like, it can't be anything but positive when the story of culture sharing over the last centuries has been to the detriment. Let me say every time. That's my opinion. Every time. It is at the detriment to the culture that it originates in, that it is from. Good thing you can't see my face in all this. I'm making all kinds of faces. That's just kind of how I feel about it. And I don't think there's enough talk about that. I think, I'm hearing the gatekeeping, and I'm loving that. I'm doing it. But I'm also wondering how we can tell each other that we're assimilating, how we are leaving our cultures, right? If white folks were more like, hey, that's actually not ours. Or even in my own culture, right? I've been hearing like acting white. People say you act white, it's like derogatory. I guess like from the stance of like an Afro person. And maybe assimilation is like a fairly like new term that we're like really using more. But I feel like it's not used enough. And I'm not saying anything about anyone who chooses to use their agency towards assimilation. I'm just wondering how, while we're gatekeeping and keeping our culture for ourselves, we can also like bring our people back to the culture. Like I was saying, people, places, plants. How do we reunite them? Is a lot of my mission. If you know about our ancestral land return trips, we've been doing that. We've done 2. There's a 3rd one, or my own planned. I don't know if it will be 3rd, but 2 have happened. 1 is in the works. We're going to be doing it with Dene folks, which will be the 3rd. So my own return trip is not next on the docket, and I have to contend with that. But bringing other people back to their homeland is teaching me how I want to go to my homeland. I have actually been to Malawi, where part of my ancestry, Zulu, is the Zulu people are from. But I have more ancestry in other places, and just ethnicity and ancestry in other places. So it's like to return to all the lands that I am of. Will be super sweet. I don't know where I was going with this or where I am with this. Okay, final thoughts. You can support my work joining me on Patreon in our seed pod giving tree. Yeah, and I'm just thinking of the giving tree that like gave everything. So maybe I just want a little bit of that, but I do respect boundaries, and I probably wouldn't allow myself to take everything from you. But I think the spirit of generosity is what is in the giving tree. because I feel like that's lacking. And I feel like a lot of times cultural appropriation is put into a lens of like economic status, which is true. It's like, are you profiting? Right? But then it's like, if you have any social leverage or position above anybody else, you can use other people's cultures differently than they can. And so you don't have to like directly be making money, but you're like shifting the narrative where they can still be like derogative for using your own culture, and then it's praised for using other people's culture. Just also find your own culture. I feel like so many people are like, I'm paying homage. I'm like, why don't you ever pay homage to your own people? Just wondering. It's like all this appreciation, and I'm just like, This is my thing too, is like how things morph into kind of normacy or for everybody, or into the melting pot, which might be seen as like the internet right now. I feel like a lot of Afro vernacular is becoming like, it's just how you talk on the internet. And it's like, people were talking like this before the internet. And just, I feel like it's like we're not talking to the older generation as much, and or the younger generation, right? There's just so many generational gaps where literally just the same cycles, right? It's like next generation, do the same thing, and there's a little bit of like conscious elevation, but it's still the same patterns, different folks. That just like struck a chord in me, but we'll talk about same patterns, different folks. Maybe in my grieving video, or just maybe another red flag video. I kind of liked that, just like an example from my life, and just like red flags, everywhere's a red flag. And red flags are negative. That's what I'm learning. Red flags are negative. I mean, maybe the police just heard their little sound, so I'm like, I went, So just let them go on by. I'm surprised there's no dogs howling. Oh, there's one. Okay, so I'm just a little flustered with the whole conversation, and just that. Okay, so this is the thing too. Hoop earrings. Afro-culturally, maybe we can even say Latin culture, that's a cultural thing for them. And it could be even like, whatever. And so then I see like Asian folks wearing hoop earrings, and Indigenous Turtle Islanders, and I feel like another thing of like reframing the narrative, hoop earrings is kind of seen as like an empowered woman. And I mean, I love empowering women, but also it's like, this was a thing before just like it was a specifically empowering women thing. And like, glad it can empower women, but also like, does it take away my power and agency so that you can feel it? I'm just saying I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling it. Let me talk. I'm just like, I don't hear this enough either, or get this narrative is like the animal print clothing, and not just any animal print, like the big predators, like the top of their sapphire. You got the snake skin, the zebras aren't at the top, but cheetah. I feel like that's another like empowered woman aesthetic that they want to put on that, or create that narrative. But I mean, 1, 2, if you have like cheetah print, leopard print, 2, actually hunt down one of those animals, kill it, and skin it. I feel like it's wearing like a headdress from Indigenous Turtle Island culture. It's just like, that is so prestigious. You don't just walk around with it on. Well, 1, you don't walk around with it on, but you don't obtain it without like, I don't want to say great sacrifice, but, putting in effort in that direction. Not merely just like, put it off the rack, take it out of my closet. Like, I'm out here doing it. I feel some kind of way about that, because I feel like it's a lot of African animals. And then it's like used out of context. It's like, no bush people would be adorned like you are. This is not the way hides are used. And so that, see it when I'm just like cultural appropriation, when you just take something out of context and then kind of reinvent it. Everyone's always like, reinvention. It's like, it already was invented. Can we just like stick to the narrative that's real? And also these new narratives become real, right? They start to take on lives of their own, and then, you know, I gotta come on this video and say my opinion. And right, it's my opinion. It's from the kind of like what I've been exposed to, what I've confronted, and how it went down. I do want to use more examples, but in this... Okay, well, I will. I'll close out with an example. So I have a romantic partner. We've been like in the same social network for about 6 years. We kind of become friends, become romantic, and they come for a weekend at my home. They come for a weekend at my home with a single plait braid down the back of their head. And they're Scottish, Irish, French, socialized male, and genderqueer. What do they say? They just have no gender, and they don't subscribe to gender. And him is like at my home with a braid. And in 6 years, I've never seen their hair braided or come remotely close to braided. It's always just like a messy bun, which I'm like, yay, cultural. Wear your messy bun. And yes, just such frustration. And they're like, well, it's not a box braid. I'm like, for the first 9 years of my life, I had a braid in my hair. Any kind of braid. Like, you have braided your hair 5 times in your life, and you choose to come to your only Afro's friend's house with a braid? Red flags, y'all. I should have just been like, and we're done. But, you know, 6 months, 10 months. You know, it takes me a while to accept a red flag for what it is and move on. Block them and move on. It takes me a while. And I keep realizing it's because I want to show empathy and compassion to these people who are harming me. And I'm like, gotta get that out of here. Gotta get it out of here. So that's what I'm working on. And kind of them being like, I can do whatever I want. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't do whatever you want. And you, for some reason, only want to do it in my home. Like, I think that's another thing where people want to push your boundaries in your own space. I'm like, why did you come here just to harm me? And, you know, nobody can answer these questions. Not nobody, but, you know, that's not the questions people are answering. Like, why do you want to be in a relationship where you cause me harm? And they're just like, I don't know, let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing it. Or, I don't mean to, so let's keep doing it. And I'm just like, nah. Right? I've been saying no more, folks. Saying no more, folks. I do apologize if I offended you with this video at all. I do feel like there was a lot of points that I made and maybe some trauma stuff. I'm just a whole, you know, I don't necessarily like trigger warning, but there was nothing I thought I needed to trigger warning about. But if you felt it, I respect that. It's valid. I know. Am I a terrible person? I'm like, don't let me know about it though. We're all problematic. Whew. As always, we value you.